Hey, hello there, and welcome to another edition of the MrWarrenHayes Show. I'm MrWarrenHayes, and we're going to be talking about professional wrestling here on this beautiful podcast that bears my name, that was birthed with my name. What a coincidence that I end up hosting the MrWarrenHayes Show. How about that? You're probably listening to this. You're probably wondering why you're listening to this first and foremost on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. And if you are, thank you very much. Consider giving a like on the video and subscribing to the channel if you're new here. Those things help grow the channel and I'd appreciate it a great deal. And if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast application, 5-star reviews on Apple Podcast, 5-star ratings on Spotify. Those things are really great as well. So why don't you go ahead and do it? I'd appreciate it. Appreciate any type of little help you can give to help grow the channel and the podcast. That stuff is fantastic. I do the podcast, I do all this thing, but I also delve into the written word once in a while, as regular listeners may know. And I have a brand new article out there over at voicesofwrestling.com in which I ask the question, or at least I state, it's not a question, it's a statement. I say, it is time to belt up evil again. That's right. New Japan Pro Wrestling superstar, reviled superstar, Evil. I make the argument that it's probably a good idea to give him another shot at the top. A lot of people don't necessarily agree with me. A lot of people think I lose my mind. What side of the fence do you fall on? Go check out the article on voicesofwrestling.com. I'd appreciate it a great deal. And if you leave the Voices of Wrestling fellas know that you enjoyed my article, hey, I'd even like that even more. There's also a Discord that I'd like you to join. The MrWarrenHayes Show Discord. If you like to talk about pro wrestling and whatnot, that's your place. Link is in the description. We'd love to have you on board to come, and not just pro wrestling. We talk about a bunch of things. It's a good time. Don't forget, I also do my AEW Dynamite reviews. The Dynamite review might be a little later than usual this Thursday, but it will be out. It will get there. Trust me. I think there's going to be a lot to talk about in regards to AEW this week. I'm recording this on May 16. So, as I mentioned, we talk about AEW's big upcoming announcement, which maybe at this point, as you're listening to this, maybe the big announcement has happened and all the speculation and everything I talk about is probably a moot point. But, I try to keep things open. I talk about how I feel we should cover AEW moving forward, how the deal should affect how we cover AEW moving forward. So, there's still value in listening to that part of the show is what I'm saying. Go check it out. We're also going to talk how CM Punk ties into all of this. Best of Super Juniors 30 update. That tournament has started, so I give you some thoughts. NJPW Resurgence 2023 preview. Hey, you got stuff to talk about. Let's go to it. And let's kick it off with the weekly wrestling inspection. Today, as I'm recording this, right? It's May 16, 2023. We are one day removed from the big announcement. Guys, gals, non-binary pals, it's almost time for the big announcement. We're there. We're so close. Just a few hours in. By the time you're listening to this, there's a very fair chance that the announcement, I should say, has come and gone as well. But we're not there yet, so let's have a little fun. Warner Bros. Discovery is having its big advertiser upfronts tomorrow, right? And Tony Khan has also said that he has a big announcement, the biggest announcement in the history of AEW. This, of course, is all speculation. All the speculation around this has led to one single thing, one unique and singular thing is, of course, the new television deal with Warner Brothers Discovery. We're still very much at a speculative level. All signs point to that because everyone who reports on the thing everyone has had similar news. But this is what we should be expecting at the upfronts or, tomorrow night on Dynamite. Tony Khan is going to have his the biggest announcement the biggest announcement in the history of AEW. Yeah, that's what we're getting here. Hey, Weedman Wade, nice to see you, and welcome to the show. He did okay. So Dave Meltzer though did go on record to say that a new rights contract will be announced at the upfronts. Because that was a lot of people were wondering, are they going to talk about it at the upfronts, or is it going to be Tony Khan himself? Well, right now, like Dave went on record and say at the upfronts, the contract will be announced. He reiterated a past report that the TV deal gives Warner Bros. Discovery the exclusive rights to the AEW product, which led to one of the reasons of the cancellation of the YouTube shows. And of course, to be very, very clear, this does not include Ring of Honor. So there's a lot of reports that have been going around, as I said, but everyone at the very basis agrees that the announcement that's coming up is the new TV deal for AEW. The terms themselves are a little scattered, but like if you were to ask me, well, what's the scuttlebutt, Warren? What's been going around the most in general, overall? People have been reporting, and again, this is a big brushstroke. We can get into the we can get into the weeds here if we want to, but $1 billion for 5 years, so that equates to $200 million a year. That includes the new TV show, which is rumored to be on Saturday, which is rumored to be named Collision. And it's also expected within this deal to have AEW content show up on Max. It's not HBO Max anymore, folks. Just plain old Max. So again, those are all the things that are being reported at the time that I'm recording this, which is probably like less than 24 hours away from the upfronts. We'll see how accurate all of this has been. I believe the highest report the highest report I read was Wade Keller, who had numbered it at 1.2 million for the 5 years, which would be also a significant amount. And I'm not trying to math on that one. And AEW, see, this is crazy. This is the amount of money, the raise that AEW is getting, if this is the case, whether it's Wade's 1.2 or let's say we just go with the 1 billion, it's about 5 times what they're getting right now. Tony Khan once said that the deal that they have right now equals out to about 44 million per year. Let that sink into your brain for a second. That is we'll be jumping from $44 million a year to $200 million a year. Is that resonating? That's 5 times the money. That's insane. Or a little less than 5. Bear with me here. I'm an English major. Nice to see you, Conrad, from the Everything Pro Wrestling podcast. Always nice to have you around, buddy. So obviously, this is tremendously big news for AEW. Like, and sometimes Tony likes to make an announcement. He says this is going to be an earth-shattering announcement. This is going to be a big announcement. This is going to be the biggest announcement. And promoters are going to promote, right? So most of the time, when I'm talking, when I'm chit-chatting with people and they're like, well, Tony Khan's announcement wasn't that big. It's like, who cares? Like, it's a promoter. He's a wrestling promoter. Let him do his job. Let him do the promoting. But he's going around saying this is the biggest announcement in the history of AEW, and I would agree with this. If this is indeed going to be $1 billion for 5 years, this is tremendous news for AEW. This is guaranteed money. I've been you know, like I do typically, and you know, which I also invite you all, my A+ audience to do, is, you know, you tune in to you listen to experts in the field, people who know what they're talking about, have been covering wrestling for a few years and the business side of pro wrestling. Brandon Thurston at WrestleNomics, for instance, or, you know, John Pollock over at Post Wrestling. You listen to those and you know how they approach this, and everyone sort of has the consensus that, you know, that in the idea of how is this going to change the business discussion in regards for AEW, like purely on a business aspect, everyone sort of agrees that, you know, we are going to have to stop talking about, stop feeling that AEW has to scratch and claw for every dollar that it gets. It won't have to, you know, wonder how much of a difference it will be for AEW to be, you know, to not have sold an extra 1,000 tickets or another extra 1,000 pay-per-views for a show. There'll be, there won't be as much scratching for cash. So ultimately, what we're going to have to get used to is no longer panicking when things don't go well, when, you know, ratings slip a week, or you know, or a show, you know, a show or a series of shows don't sell out as well. They have guaranteed money. They're not as dependent now as they once were on the gates, on the pay-per-view revenue. Now, you know, this is not like absolute free cash that they're getting, right? Like, this is also an important distinction to make. This is, they're not just getting, oh, look, continue doing what you're doing. Here is a 5 times raise on what you're doing. No. This $200 million a year deal, if that is the case, comes with an extra 2 hours of programming a week. Live TV, right? It comes with a Saturday show that they are expected to produce. So, you know, when a lot of us were predicting and talking about how much money is AEW, like last year, how much money is AEW going to get on its new deal? You know, you'd base yourself on observable, quantifiable facts. You'd look at, you know, what was going on. You'd take a look at ratings, how they were performing, what type of advertisers they were bringing in, so on and so forth. And then you'd be like, well, you know, maybe 2 times, 2.5. You know, so a lot of people were very conservative, saying, you know, maybe 1.5 for a raise. Now we're getting 5 times, but we're also getting an extra set of shows. We're getting a whole different production, right? So we're getting another full 2 hours of pro wrestling on TV. So, you know, it's 5, you know, it's 2, again, if this is the case, it's $200 million a year, but, you know, with a, I don't want to say with a catch, but with a caveat, because they're going to be producing more weekly content. So of course you're going to need more money, because producing shows costs money, producing TV costs money, without you know, even considering what you're going to pay for talent, you know, so on and so forth. And speaking of talent, well, I mean, look, this is something that has also been that this is something to consider, right? From a business perspective, right? Because this is going to be, look, from a business perspective, this is going to change so many things with the guaranteed money. Talent, of course, there's a lot of people going, my deal's coming up, and you know, a lot of people are going to be like, they're probably angling for a little more money, and Tony will probably be a little more capable of matching whatever they want. I'm not necessarily saying everyone's going to get what they want, but you know, he'll probably be in a better position to work it, you know, and the top people in the company will be able to ask for more money, and Tony will be like, well, okay, like, this is good, this is interesting, this, you know, if we can get you know, if AEW and WWE become a little more competitive when it comes to salaries. And again, I'm sort of speaking through my hat here, because I'm not quite sure what kind of gap there is between when it comes to salaries in WWE versus AEW. I would assume that WWE salaries are higher, right? One would assume. But, you know, that, well, I couldn't tell you. So we're, you know, just basing off an assumption and gut feeling, you would assume expect that Tony Khan is able to match or, be more competitive. Maybe not match, but be more competitive in regards to WWE salaries. Which is good because, we talked about this on the show in the past when Vince McMahon returned to the company, forced his way back in. Let me start over. When he left the company, that was an advantage that AEW had over WWE is for wrestlers, for attracting talent. It's like, well, we don't have Vince McMahon here. So having wrestlers feel like they might have a little more creativity, that they'll be able to wrestle more, do whatever they want. They might be able. The fact that Vince was gone was an advantage for Tony Khan. Maybe I'm going to pay you less, but you don't have to deal with Vince's booking. Now that Vince is back in the picture and whatever. So maybe that advantage came back, but in the prospect that that Vince would not be part of WWE, having the capacity to meet WWE salaries, or inch closer to them, may sort of compensates for the loss of that advantage in AEW. Did that make sense? I don't even know if that made sense. Hopefully it did. It made sense in my brain, but I felt like I was going on. The advantage, let me try and summarize just to make sure. Should Vince McMahon leave WWE again, which is an advantage for AEW, right? To be able to say the fact that having Vince McMahon in WWE is an advantage for AEW. So if Vince should leave, the fact that AEW can provide better salaries maybe compensates for that lack of an advantage, for that weakness ultimately, or that threat. I think I summarized it better than what I was trying to spew out a few seconds ago. So that's really good. And then, of course, bigger risks. They'll be able to take more risks. They'll be able to improve on production. They'll be able to, make bigger signings at the same time. They'll be able to shell out for bigger talent. Of course, like I said, this all comes with the caveat of an extra 2 hours of programming, but still, this is where we are. So I think it's exciting. From a creative perspective, I'm coming at this I'm not gonna lie, I'm coming at this with a little more apprehension than I think many people are, because there is currently another wrestling company out there that has guaranteed money, and its creative stinks. Can start pointing fingers and getting going into details or whatnot, but nonetheless, there's another major league company out there that has guaranteed money every year, and their shows are subpar and does not respond well to the likes of me who like, pro wrestling. So I'm hoping that the comfort, the reassurance, the reduction in anxiety that this guaranteed money creates for AEW, this cushion that it creates for AEW, doesn't become a level of comfort in which that causes AEW to lose its edge, that clawing aspect. So, because to a degree, the idea of them having to put on great wrestling shows and having to sell pay-per-views, it's always a priority. It was always a priority for AEW because the TV deals were, not, don't want to say small, but in comparison, not as big. So they had to work and scrape a little more. In this case here, I'm looking at all of this. It's like, well, if you have the guaranteed money, do you still have that edge? Do you still have that? Do you still have that edge? Do you still have that energy that desperation need to just jump in and claw your way and do everything you can to get more viewers, to get more sales, to get more ticket buyers, to get more pay-per-views, to get more merch sold. Does it create a bit of apathy? Like I said, on one end of the spectrum, it has. Does this mean it's going to be a carbon copy to AEW? Hopefully not. I don't think so. I wouldn't assume so. But, I think we need to be aware of that. I think we need to keep that in mind moving forward as we criticize AEW. And we should be comfortable enough to apply the same type of logic, I should say, should that start to happen. Because the last thing I want to do, and hopefully most of you believe and know deep in your hearts that it's something that I feel comfortable in doing, that I will do, that I will look at AEW if it starts going down this path and call it out as such and be very weary about all of that. Hopefully it doesn't. What I'm saying is that there is a level of apprehension because I've been burned. There's a level of apprehension here that I'm going to try not. It's not going to taint me from the get-go, but it's always going to be in the back of my mind. It's always something I'm going to be weary of it, and hopefully it doesn't rear its ugly head. If that makes sense. Because I think we should be able to call out the criticisms and call out criticisms. If you don't like something on one side, you should be able to point it out when it happens on the other side. Just like a couple of weeks ago when I was bemoaning the fact that we were having Can They Coexist tag matches leading into a fatal four-way match. Don't call it a fatal four-way match at Double or Nothing. I was like, look, this is WWE booking. It still is. And people go, but Warren, come on now this is AEW. No. This is the same bullshit. This is the same WWE bullshit. You're getting, can they coexist matches to lead into a four-way match for the world title at a pay-per-view? That is absolutely 100% WWE stuff, and I don't like it. Will the match be great? Maybe. I didn't care for the tag team match. I thought it actually kind of dragged, and I'm kind of worried for the main event. So is it going to be great? Well, there's only 4 guys who'll be able to tell me if they're ready to make it great or not. So I'll be looking forward to it. I'm going to watch it, but the build in and about itself, I hated it. I think it stinks. I think it stinks for multiple reasons. You can listen to the Dynamite reviews that I've been doing over the past couple of weeks if you want to learn more about my stance on how things are going in Dynamite these days. But we're talking about we're talking about the new show, the Collision show. We all know how this entails. We're talking about the money. We're talking about the talent taking advantage of being able to take advantage of all this new influx on different levels. And more production and whatnot and bigger hires. But what about CM Punk? What about Phil Brooks? What is he getting out of all of this? What is it? Won't anyone think about Phil? Poor Phil in all of this. Discarded, disgraced, his name dragged through the mud, muck-racked through the sheets, the dirty sheets, the dirtiest of sheets. There were rumors. There were rumors and reports that the AEW deal here with Collision, there was a lot of scuttlebutt and speculation saying that the CM Punk that Warner Brothers requested that CM Punk be on the roster to get the deal, right? Like he was a negotiation tactic. They were like, we will give you the money if you give us CM Punk. Those marks over in the boardroom, they were like, listen, Tony, Anthony, listen, my favorite wrestler is is CM Punk. He's straight edge. I love him. Do you remember the pipe bomb? It reignited my love of professional wrestling. If you do not have Phil Brooks on your roster, Anthony, we're not giving you the money. According to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, though, AEW's deal with Warner Bros. Discovery for Collision would have happened with or without CM Punk. That's what Dave says. But Warner Brothers Discovery definitely wanted him for the new show, which is an important nuance. Nonetheless, let's think about, let's consider the verbiage here. It's an important nuance. You know, there's one that is conditional and there's one that is a nice to have, right? One is a need. I need this. I need X for Y to happen. But the other one is like, I would like X, but Y is going to happen regardless. So, you know, I don't know if that's, again, I don't know how real or true that is, but it's probably, you know, Dave has been a little, ever since the Instagram post, Dave has been a little, he's been careful with what he's been sharing in regards to CM Punk and the Elite, because he's so sick of all this shit blowing up in his face all the time. He's like, look, I'm going to be careful. So I would assume, again, just doing some good old-fashioned media literacy, just going down the old dusty trail of what Dave has said in the past, I would assume that at this point, if he is saying with a certain amount of confidence that the show, that Collision would have happened with or without CM Punk, I would assume that would be closer to the truth than the opposite. I'm not saying it's 100% true, but I'm saying I'm more inclined to believe it. With caveats, of course, always, but I'm more inclined to believe it. In regards to efforts made to fend fences, have you ever fended a fence? That, you know, that old time, you know, job of fending fences. Oh my goodness, my fence has been furbled. Don't worry, ma'am. I will fend it for you. We will fend your furbled fences for you. Ma'am, I have no idea what I'm talking about. Regarding efforts to mend fences, right? Because that's always a thing that's happening or isn't happening if you, again, believe the Observer. Punk and others backstage would be mending fences between Punk and others backstage, of course. Dave writes, they are no closer to any resolutions than they have been, but things are more reasonable. But here's a big thing that Dave brought up in this exact same report. He reiterated that there are a number of open legal issues, and those are keeping people from speaking publicly about the situation, as well as contacting the other side. And when I say the other side, I don't mean, you know, follow the light kind of situation. Like the other camp, the Elite camp and the Punk camp. They can't talk to each. Now, this has me thinking. Because we've heard, I think it's interesting that we're talking about the legal situation, that we're talking about the legal situation again, because not that long ago, the Punk camp was hitting up the journos and, you know, dropping some information that, hey, Phil wants to talk with the other guys. He wants to talk with the Elite, but they're not giving us any news. They're not talking. They're not responding. I don't know. I'm such a nice guy. I'm CM Punk. Calm, level-headed, regular Joe CM Punk. I just want to go out there and wrestle for the fans. Gee whiz. But the Elite aren't talking. They're not responding to that. They're not texting me back. I send them, SUP, starry eye emoji. Would you send a starry eye emoji in that circumstance? Or, one of these? I don't know. They're not responding back. I'm CM Punk. I'm such a nice guy. So I'm thinking maybe they're not responding because legally they can't. And if the Punk camp is dropping that information, is going around saying, well, we're trying to get in contact, but they're stonewalling us, they're ghosting us, while omitting the sort of crucial bit of information that, they're not writing us back because, they legally they can't, there's paperwork that's keeping them. I'm like, Jesus, mother, holy shit. That's kind of an important bit of information to add in there. The Punk camp. Try to make yourselves look like holier than thou, but the other guys just can't answer because legally they're bound to not talk to you as it stands. Like this little tidbit of information sort of like blends into everything. Sort of you say, a lot of things are starting to make sense, and maybe the Jacksons and Omega aren't the assholes that a lot of people are making them out to be. They go, CM Punk wants to work with them. They don't. It's on them. Maybe they're just doing what they're told to stay out of legal trouble. Worse yet, maybe, look, this is entirely tinfoil stuff here. Maybe Phil was baiting them. Maybe Phil was just baiting them, right? Which is also possible, knowing this guy. Knowing how he behaves is what I mean. See, the report continues. Someone on the Punk side, but not Punk. No, not someone on the Punk side, but someone, but not CM Punk, is said to want to apologize, but can't due to the ban in communicating with the other side. So Dave is actually reporting it and saying they'd be okay. They'd want to try and, make amends, but they can't because there's legal documentation. Someone else on the non-Punk side told Meltzer that they believe multiple apologies are in order and that, quote, Punk should be the first, but not the only one. And then earlier today, Andrew Zarian, Matt Men, said that the Punk announcement of his return, of course, is going to happen over the next few days. So it might happen just as soon as tomorrow night on Dynamite, AEW Dynamite on TBS. It could be just as soon as that. And a lot of folks are like, he shouldn't announce it. He shouldn't announce that CM Punk coming. And you know what? I couldn't disagree more. I could not be in a position to disagree more than not announcing, not making a big deal out of the CM Punk return. Do you know why? I'm going to give you one chance. I'm going to give you one chance to think about it. I'm going to give you one chance to create a response in your mind. But I know you've already figured it out because y'all are a super smart audience. You announce it because you want to sell tickets. If you announce that at the Chicago show, he's going to be there, the opening night of Collision, what do you want? You want a full arena stacked with people, psyched out of their skulls because you're in Chicago to see their boy back. Money. This is different than 2 years ago when there were the rumors, the wink winks, the nudge nudge. That let us all believe gave us the breadcrumbs, the trail of breadcrumbs to CM Punk's return at the United Center. All the signs were there. It's like he's not signing. We're not filling out the United Center in Chicago if it's not CM Punk returning, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's exactly what happened. You don't need that level of mystery anymore. You don't need that level of mystique, because the return of CM Punk entering your company out of the blue, that was a big deal. That was a huge, unexpected turn of events. It was probably one of the biggest news stories to happen. It still is one of the biggest news stories in the history of pro wrestling. The return of CM Punk after 7 years of absence into fledgling company AEW. It's a huge thing. Now, the guy's still on your roster. He's still employed. You don't have to be coy about it. Like, oh, we don't know who's coming. Oh, by the way, the Collision show, it's called The Second Coming. Oh, we're just throwing that out there. Like, you don't have to play coy. And it's dumb, really. Go out there, sell tickets. Pop your rating, as the kids like to say, for your first Collision show, because everyone's going to want to tune in to see CM Punk come back and see what kind of crazy ass bullshit he's going to say when on his opening promo. Because as much as you can love or hate CM Punk, I don't care who you are, you're excited to hear what he's going to talk about when he's handed a live mic on a Saturday night in front of a Chicago audience, a rabid Chicago audience that's going to be crazy out of their heads, excited to see him. You're going to be hanging off of every word. There's going to be transcripts happening live. They're going to be all over Reddit. People are going to be typing it down. They're going to be analyzing every word, every inflection. They're going to be looking for Easter eggs and clues and subtle hints, jabs. Oh, this was a Cody Rhodes jab. Oh, this is exactly what's going to happen. So no, you don't leave it up to chance. You announce it. That's what you do. Sell the tickets, sell out the houses, pop a rating. Don't go around saying, oh, they should keep it a surprise. What surprise? At this point, it's not, just bring them back. And you know, if the company wasn't in a position where they needed to do this, right? If this was 2021, late 2021 AEW, I'd be like, yeah, they don't have to announce it. They can just do it. Just do it and don't tell anyone. Kind of like what they did with, Danielson and all of that. They were very coy about all that. They could do nothing wrong. And everything, it was surprise. But this is not the same company anymore. This is a company who's not filling out shows anymore. Double or Nothing, last I checked, just yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, it's like at about 9,100 tickets sold. No, it was a capacity. There's about 1,300 tickets left. Open capacity of 9,100. In the same venue in Las Vegas that they ran Double or Nothing last year, where they sold over 14,000 tickets, or at least distributed over 14,000 tickets. I wouldn't call this a rampaging success. Hey-oh, boom-ts. I wouldn't call this a success. And, attendance hasn't been as hot as it has. Well, they ended up selling out or being very close to selling out the Dynamite show from last week, which, of course, because it was crazy. But overall, attendance hasn't been great. It hasn't been a disaster, but we're not hitting the highs that we had in late 2021. So this company right now, needs to get hot again, and they're going to have an extreme. Look, I don't know if they're going to have a hot summer, but they have all the puzzle pieces to have a hot summer. Once Double or Nothing is out of the way, They have the new show. They have CM Punk. They have Forbidden Door. They have Wembley. And effectively, you know, if you believe the rumors, a week later, they're having All Out. So all the parts are there. Plus, tons of money. Shitloads of cash. So, as it stands, AEW in the summer, during the summer of 2023 should be an unstoppable juggernaut of awesome. But we're going to have to see how they all compose with these things. Everything's in place. Just see how it goes. But yeah, just announce it tomorrow, Tony. Are you listening to this, Tony Khan? Tony Khan, if you're listening to this, type F in the chat. If you're listening to this, Tony Khan, just go ahead and say CM Punk is coming back. Just do it. Why don't we talk a little more about Backlash, about the business of WWE Backlash this year? Because Brandon Thurston was able to wrap up a little more, get a little more extra information, and likely a little more accurate than the WWE press releases in regards to the success of WWE Backlash 2023 this year. He was able to receive information from the Puerto Rico Convention Center District Authority through a public records request. So we are capable of knowing exactly what kind of business WWE did in Puerto Rico. Shout out to Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics. Of course, it's the weekly plug, but I'm telling you, you know, if you're interested in the true business side of the business, right? We're not talking like creative and plans and then who's going to beat Roman? None of that. You know, you want to talk about how the business is going and how decisions are affecting business and so on and so forth. He's your guy. But Backlash on May 6th in San Juan, Puerto Rico, drew $1,447,558 for the live gate from 15,145 paid attendees. An additional 1,351 tickets were comped for a total of 16,496 tickets distributed for the event. SmackDown the previous night at the same venue achieved another $1 million gate for WWE, $1,048,295 based on 14,282 tickets sold. 1,270 tickets were comped, bringing total tickets distributed to 15,552. Now, according to WWE, they said that more than 34,800 fans were there. Not exactly off base, but not exactly that either. As you know, 16,896 for SmackDown, 17,944 for Backlash. So, you know, a little embellishment, but they've done worse. WWE in that regard. But more interesting, not more interestingly, you know, but this is also very interesting, but it's not more interesting. This was interesting. Let's keep down this path of interesting things. According to WWE, viewership of Backlash saw a 28% increase versus the record set in 2022, which of course meant that it was the most viewed Backlash in the history of Backlash, which, as many members of the MrWarrenHayes show know, is, you know, an empty stat if we don't have viewership numbers, if we don't know what a view equates to, right? Do I have to run this down again? Just very quickly. What constitutes a view on Peacock? Is it a minute? Is it 30 seconds? Is it 2 minutes? Is it 5 minutes? So if someone is watching 5 minutes of a thing, it counts as a view. If they only watch 20 minutes of the entire pay-per-view, it still counts as a view. I would assume that a view is, if I'm not mistaken, Nielsen clocks it in at a minute for their streaming analytics. I could be wrong. I think it's a minute. So we can only assume that that's probably that Peacock goes with the industry standard here, but I don't know. What would be a more compelling stat to have, and I've said this multiple times, is the stat of total time watched. That would be the much more compelling, interesting statistic to know. Did most viewers watch 20% of the show? Did they watch 50% of the show, 70, so on and so forth? That is a much more interesting and telling stat. Again, it's something I get on YouTube. I'm able to see the percentage of every stream, of every video. I'm able to see what kind of watch time I have, and that is indeed a more compelling stat than just a view. I'm able to see if I'm able to maintain interest and what topics are considered interesting and so on and so forth. So, it grew 28%. Good for them. What does that even mean? Plus, again, let's not forget that Peacock currently has 20 million subscriptions. That rose, it jumped up last year in 2022 from 9 million subscriptions because Peacock was added to a bunch of cable deals as a free, for a free year, right? If you all remember that. So, so Peacock boasted that they have, we have 20 million subscribers now, but a lot of them came in off of cable deals, already prepackaged and were good for a year. Now, a lot of these deals, like for instance, the Comcast deal, Comcast subscribers starting on June 26, will no longer have Peacock for free. The members are going to have to, Comcast subscribers, I should say, are going to have to shell out money for it. At first, I think they're going to start it off at $2.99 a month for a limited time, right? Because the price is like $4.99, $5. They might start it at $3.99, sort of to ease people in, grandfather them in to a degree. I don't think that's the right definition of grandfathering. I don't think that's what it is. I think it's more to ease them into the pay schedule. So how is that going to affect subscriptions? I would say significantly. If you were getting this for free and you weren't necessarily getting any value out of it, well, you're probably going to pull the plug once Comcast sends you a little email. It's like, hey, starting on June 26th, you're going to be like, fuck this shit. I don't want this Peacock shit. Or it might just work. Maybe the $2.99, maybe if they started off at a lower price, you'll be interested to stay on. It'll be very interesting to see how this goes because Peacock is not profitable. It's not making money. I think right now the only, what was it? I think HBO Max recently announced that it was profitable and my jaw hit the floor. I was like, really? HBO Max is making money? Okay, well, good for them. That's good. But Peacock is absolutely not profitable right now. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. Now, for WWE, I would assume that they're not going to lose 20 million subscribers, right? There's probably some very smart people at Comcast, at Peacock, who figured this out, who know what the attrition is going to look like. So, they've probably figured out that they're going to lose, 15%. I don't know, of the 20 million. Who cares? I don't know. Right now, I'm just talking for talking's sake. But when it comes to WWE, I would assume that it's still a good. I think it's probably still a good deal for them because they're still deeply entrenched into multiple people's homes. Nonetheless, millions of people, regardless. So there's probably something still to this that. They'll probably be able to come out and say, we had, great viewership nonetheless, so on and so forth. But I would say that the days of that, the halcyon days of 2022, 2023, where every pay-per-view was the highest viewed of all time, I think those days are done because the Peacock subscriber numbers are inevitably going to start going down. So So I mean, that'll be interesting, and it'll be doubly interesting, to see how their TV deals shake out as well, right? Because those are still upcoming. By the way, I didn't mention this. We talked about the upfronts for AEW, of course, right? But Fox and NBC News already had their upfronts, right? It turns out that Raw, NXT, and SmackDown were barely mentioned by NBC Universal and Fox on their upfronts. I believe that they were yesterday. PW Insider did report that the network's exclusive negotiating window for WWE's next rights deals either have or are about to expire. This is a very interesting little tidbit here, because if that means that the exclusivity windows are coming down, that means that WWE will be free to negotiate with whoever they want, wherever they want, right? So they haven't announced anything yet, they being WWE, or the new company, TKO is what they're going. I know it's supposed to be like, what was it supposed to be? Wide Whale Inc., Big Whale, Fun Whale, Great Whale. But that was just a placeholder. Apparently it's going to be TKO moving forward, which was the stock ticker that they had registered months ago when all this news started to break about Endeavor buying WWE or merging WWE with UFC. We could so there's a feeling going around, and that it makes perfect sense that people within WWE are going to that WWE is going to open up negotiations to other networks. So they're going to go talk with people maybe outside of NBC Universal, maybe outside of Fox, maybe outside of both. Because that's it at this point. If the negotiation windows, if the exclusivity windows are closed or are passed, what is it? They're closed. They're open. What is it? What do you do? What is a good thing in a if your exclusivity window is closed, that means you can no longer go through. But if it's open, that means you can go through. Anyway, the window's about to expire. Can a window expire? Oh, all right, that's enough, Warren. Get to your point. My point being that people saw, there was no mention of WWE on Fox. Well, it's like, okay, like they could be negotiating right now, and you're not going to go to your upfront saying, hey, we got to the advertisers, to the people that the networks are going to be siphoning money off to get ad revenue from. You're not going to be promising a show that you're not going to get. So they might be negotiating. They might have been already terminated negotiations, and Fox going, yeah, you know what, guys, go do whatever you want at this point, because we can't match this, or we don't want this. Or maybe they're offering a certain amount, and WWE is going to go elsewhere and try to leverage that against what Fox is doing. At this point, personally, I find it's been taking them a while to settle their deal, right? Their TV deals. Does this have anything to do with the Endeavor purchase? Couldn't tell you. But I think it is curious at this point that nothing has been settled, nothing's been announced. If anything, I would pray for the USA Network to hopefully maintain Raw on Monday nights, because there's nothing that even comes close as far as ratings go on USA Network. It is the top rated show of that cable network. If they lose Raw, they lose their top rated show. I would assume that they would want to hang on to them, to WWE, but at what cost? That's always the question. And is WWE ready to make any concessions? I'm pretty sure WWE feels in a tremendous if they feel like they're in a tremendous advantageous position right now. I would assume, as far as negotiations go, they're probably coming in here saying, look, we've got all this money coming in, we've got the new structure, the new companies, WWE is going to be part of this new great conglomerate. We're holding all the marbles here, pal. Be interesting. Like, I don't know how this is going to go. I don't know how this is going to go, but it's an interesting little tidbit here to add to the conversation for sure, to keep in mind, because as much excitement as there is right now around the TV deals for AEW, we haven't heard a peep in regards to WWE's. The upfronts happen. Not much was there wasn't much ado about WWE's presence on the upfronts. So maybe that's it. Maybe the exclusivity windows are passing and it's time to open it up, and we just might be surprised. This is already a wild year for wrestling business. Let's keep it going. I love the chaos. I love the craziness. On his PW Torch podcast, Wade Keller had some things to say about WWE wrestlers. He said that some WWE wrestlers are, quote unquote, at least happy Vince McMahon is back, that Vince McMahon is, again, quote, back contributing to creative. These are exact quotes from what Wade reported. Keller said that some of that is probably, quote unquote, purely based on self-interest, unquote, as they believe McMahon will push them more than Triple H would. Gee willikers, you don't say. You don't say that the wrestlers who like Vince because Vince gave them pushes are happy Vince is back on scene. I'm telling you, like sometimes, and this, this was picked up and reported, and the reason why I'm talking about this isn't because I'm not going to sit here and go like this and go, well, folks, we are going to analyze now which wrestlers does Warren Hayes believe that is going to benefit from Vince's return, like, because I like Wade, but this is bunk. Like this, who cares? And if there was ever a bit of news that is non-news, it's this. And this is not necessarily Wade's fault, because this was aggregated. This was rehashed and put into headlines on, aggregators. They're like, oh, some wrestlers are happy that Vince McMahon are back. Really? And then you head to the article like, who? And, there's no mention of it because Wade just says this in passing. So it's not a thing. I'm not putting this on Wade. I'm putting this on the overall incomprehension that a lot of fans have into what constitutes a news report and what doesn't. I'm sure, look, Wade just says this off the cuff. It's like, look, I talked to some people, but then you have the aggregators who are like, oh, Vince, that's an SEO headline. Wrestlers are happy he's back. That'll generate some hits. And it's really just as simple as that, while removing the entire context and making it feel like an actual news report, like something, that Wade sat down and was like, breaking news, everyone. Wrestlers are happy that Vince is back. At least some of them are. But that's not what happened. But we seem to revel in this vague news bullshit when it's not news. It's reporting. It's just talking. It's like, this is what I heard. This is what I heard. It's speculatory. There's nothing attached to this. Now, if Wade had come out and said, well, Braun Strowman said that he was happy that Vince was back. Now you got yourself a story. This is he goes on record. He says, I spoke with Braun Strowman who told me Vince McMahon is happy. He's back. He's back that happy Vince is back. Then you have, that's news. But this is just, it's it's vague conjecture nonsense. And in the context of a podcast where he's talking about all sorts of different subjects and he's going over a bunch of things, this works. But as a standalone report, you go, what the hell are we doing here? And then people are reporting this, well, there are wrestlers who are happy. Of course there are people backstage who are happy that Vince is back contributing to creative. Now, I think it's interesting that the quote that was used here is back contributing to creative, right? Because that continues to add support to the idea that Vince is even if he's not in the weeds, as he liked to say, he's at least involved in the composition and the creative aspect of the shows. But for some reason, look, we'll latch on to the vagueness and be like, wow, really? It's, of course. Of course. You know, you got a manager at work that you can't stand. And he leaves, he goes on sick leave, and you're like, holy shit, this is great. And he comes back and you're pissed off. But there's, you know, a couple of your coworkers like, oh, brother, we're so glad you're back. It's just how it goes. This shouldn't come to a surprise to anyone. This should not have ended up on any headlines. You know what else shouldn't have ended up on any headlines on any website? This thing. And I don't usually do this. I really don't. Doing, you know, call outs but I'll tell you one thing. If there is anyone out there who is the vaguest news poster that people seem to latch onto and say, oh, the vaguest of vague news posters is WrestleVotes. And for, you know, they'll just throw out big plans. There's, you know, they'll throw out the most vague statements, and then when the thing happens, they'll claim it as, I reported this first. No, you said there are plans. There are things coming. You're not reporting. Look at and listen to this. This is something that popped up into my eyeballs this week from WrestleVotes. It goes, interesting tidbit. Source says a number of creative decisions and ideas planned prior to WrestleMania have not gone the way envisioned. Not to say for better or worse, but the direction for some superstars is far different than what had been internally discussed. Oh, really? Oh, gee. Things moved around and were changed. The original plans weren't stuck to. Are you telling me the wrestling business was being the wrestling business? Are you telling me that? Are you trying to pass off as a report the singular most obvious thing that happens in pro wrestling since the dawn of pro wrestling? How does anyone even come to say, you know what? This is a great tweet right here. Stuff planned didn't happen the way they were planned. Good or bad, it just didn't happen. And how does anyone lap this shit up? How does anyone then say, great reporting? So then, like in 2 years, when, I don't know, Becky Lynch has gone from the company, she cuts a shoot interview and she says, you know, I was supposed to face Bianca Belair at WrestleMania 39. This guy, person, individual, we're not going to make an assumption here. This individual is going to go back in their Twitter machine and quote tweet this up and say, we reported this back in 2023. That plans had changed. Without saying who, with that non-committal, vague bullshit, and yet people are like, oh, isn't that interesting? Jesus Christ. This is how low the bar is. This is how low it gets. On one hand, you have Wade Keller on his podcast, just shooting the breeze, talking about stuff, not making a statement, an announcement. Hey, listen, guys, I have some news, big report coming out. Some wrestlers are at least happy that Vince is back. No, he's just talking, but this guy, excuse me, hits his Twitter device and goes, I have a source who told me that things that were supposed to happen didn't happen the way they were supposed to. Wow. That is literally throwing shit at the wall. It's throwing the most ambiguous shit at the wall. And we have got to expect better from people reporting, and I know how the nature of the beast is in pro wrestling reporting. I get it. I really do. But we can do better than this. We can do better than WrestleVotes. Most people are better than WrestleVotes. Just throwing things, being vague, and then, oh, we reported this. Oh, we reported this. Come on. Thank you, everyone, for still hanging around, being here. Hopefully enjoying your evening. It's now time to talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling. In fact, it is time for the New Japan Pro Wrestling Best of the Super Junior 30 update. What a time to be alive for all of these fantastic shows. The tournament started just a couple of days ago. We've already have 4 nights of action. Now, full disclosure, I have not had the opportunity to watch night 4 as of yet, so I cannot speak with confidence in its regard. I cannot tell you with great aplomb that which matches I liked, which matches I hated, so on and so forth. I don't know if there are any matches to hate, but so most of my commentary will surround nights 1, 2, and 3, which I watched in their entirety. And look, I'm going to tell you, a breeze to watch so far. This tournament has been an absolute treasure. It's been a blast. Like out the gate, I recommend night 1. I recommend heftily night 1 to anyone who's on the fence, is like, oh, maybe I should watch it. Should I watch? Yes, the answer is yes. It's an under 3 hour show. I think it was like overall, without the, if you cut away like the post match promos and all of that, 2.5 hours, just a fantastic pro wrestling. 10 great matches that you can get into really easily. And you know what? I'm going as far as to say this. You can get into these matches really easily, and I think this is actually a really, really good time to get into New Japan Pro Wrestling, because everything feels like we're going down the reset path. Like we're resetting, restarting, renewing, maybe not resetting. We're bringing in an era of renewal into New Japan. Right now, Gedo he's pushing a whole bunch of new guys, bringing them to the forefront. We talked about it last week. So, I'm not going to rehash all of that, but if you're like, man, New Japan feels so daunting because of all the history and so on and so forth, this is a really good time to get into it. And I'm going to tell you what, night 1 of the Best of the Super Juniors is the best time to jump into it. The absolute best time to dive in. Because it was an incredible show. It was an incredible show that, like I said, filled with energetic matches and, that people were just excited for. Night 1 was filled with tons of great stuff, and we're in the round robin tournament, which of course I really like. How should we go about doing this? How should I do this? Maybe just run down the cards, and if I have any cognizant thoughts, I'll bring them as we go along. How about that? Just real quickly otherwise. On night 1 of the Best of Super Juniors 30, which occurred on May 12th from Corkin Hall, started off with Clark Connors. Clark Connors, newly minted member of Bullet Club, Clark Connors, defeating Kevin Knight in a good opener. Taiji Ishimori defeated Taguchi. I thought this was great. And it was a sub 5 minute match, like 3 minutes, 54 seconds according to Cage Match. This was great. And they made the most out of this 4 minutes here. And the story that they're telling here is Taguchi, who is typically a goofball. He's a bit of a comedy act. He said at the Best of Super Juniors press conference, I'm doing this seriously. I'm not, pulling down my pants, going around bare ass, brandishing my scrot. I'm not doing any of that. I'm going seriously here, and so he came in with that attitude against Taiji Ishimori, and they really went hard for 4 minutes essentially. A fun little diversion here. Not, definitely not your 5-star classic, but that wasn't the point. The energy, everything worked, got the crowd into it. And Taiji Ishimori, man, he wins this one with the bone lock, so he scored his first 2 points here. I'll tell you one thing. Nice to see Obscurity Knox. Taiji Ishimori wins with the bone lock. And I'll tell you one thing. We talked about it last week, and he won each of his matches on the first 3 nights. He lost on night 4, but he was the first guy to reach 6 points. He was the first competitor to reach 6 points. And look, what was I telling y'all last week? I wouldn't be surprised if he makes it far. I wouldn't be surprised if he even won the thing. I think he's going to be in the He's going to be in the semifinals and the playoffs, like Kevin Kelly called it. He's going to win. He's going to win a block or be a second runner-up. He's going to be there. He's been too protected. This is his first win, his first singles win, or excuse me, his loss today on night 4 is his first loss since October 2022, when he lost to Master Wato. He lost at Wrestle Kingdom, sure, in the Fatal 4-Way. Don't call it a Fatal 4-Way. The 4-Way match. But he wasn't pinned. He was never pinned, and he was the champion. So he never really lost his belt. He got his win back over Master Wato, and then he was, heavily involved in singles and whatnot. And I'm pretty in tag matches, I should say. And look, I didn't watch all of the Road 2 shows. I generally don't. I don't watch all the multi-man matches. But I would say with a certain amount of confidence that if you were to go back, watch all his multi-man matches, he probably wasn't the guy eating the pins. Or maybe he got pinned once or twice, something to that effect, to set up, feuds or tensions moving into Best of Super Juniors. But this guy is protected. Gedo didn't put him out there doing singles matches right and left, special singles matches, and he didn't waste them on a rematch with Hiromu either. These are all reasons. There's all reasons for this. These are all things that, we can look back on and like, oh shit, you can see Gedo's breadcrumb trail. You can see all the breadcrumbs right up into a point where you're like, this is what he was doing. So I'm telling you, don't sleep on Ishimori. Sure, he lost today, but he won his first 3 matches pretty handily. And he, the guy he lost to today, the guy he lost to on night 4, hey, Lio Rush, who is currently being positioned as the top guy of the tournament. We're going to get to him in a second. Why don't we talk about him now? Why am I waiting? Lio Rush is currently being positioned as the top guy in the tournament. Won his first 2 matches. Night 3 ends up fighting Hiromu Takahashi, in a rematch of their outstanding junior heavyweight title match that they had in March. Like an outstanding match. And they had the rematch on night 3. And he won. He beat the champ in the tournament. So not only does this, by New Japan rules, secure another title shot for, technically you pin the champion, you get a title shot down the road, and so on and so forth, or at least you're entitled to one. Lio Rush right now is undefeated. He's the first guy at 8 points. He won all 4 of his matches. So he's up at 8 points, and he's the only guy up there at 8 points. He's being positioned as the guy. This is the guy. This is the guy of the block A. He's the guy you need to beat because he just beat the champion. And he is the guy who defeated Taiji Ishimori on night 4. So it all makes sense. If Ishimori is going to lose to someone, might as well be against the guy who beat the champion, who's coming off looking really friggin' strong, who not only, because let's not forget, Taiji Ishimori on top of that, former IWGP Junior Champion, did not lose, was not pinned for the title at Wrestle Kingdom, and was on a tear right up until he met Lio Rush. So what we're saying here, what Gedo is telling us is, Lio Rush is the guy to beat, but Taiji Ishimori is right up there too. So Rush has right now has the tiebreaker on Ishimori, which is interesting. We'll talk about upcoming matches and previews in a little bit, but and I may have gone off track a little bit with the matches here, but ultimately this has been the tale for Ishimori and Lio Rush so far. Lio Rush is the guy of the tournament. He's the guy. Ishimori's still not far behind. He just lost to the guy. Not a big deal. Because so far, the guys that Ishimori defeated are guys Ishimori should be defeating. Taguchi, Doki, Titan. These are all guys that Ishimori should be putting away, right? That's the other thing that we could talk about when in regards to Ishimori's upcoming tournament is that, he's going to start running into some stiff competition. And I kind of meant that as a pun, but also not necessarily. He still has Hiromu on the docket. And I believe it's on the last night. I'd have to check that out. But he's got Hiromu coming up. He's got, he also has Mike Bailey coming up as well. So, and Mike Bailey is another guy in this tournament, not the guy, but a guy. Kushida right now is not, he's not, he's hasn't been tearing it up so far, but there's still the potential of Kushida there. Look, he's going to be a true to form presence in this tournament. Is Ishimori going to be? Is this the last night here? No, these are the results. What am I doing? Schedule. Yes, I said schedule. It's Dominion Resurgence. I believe this is the one here. No, he's got TJP on the final night. I was mistaken. I thought he had Hiromu. He has TJP on the final night of the block. But this was fantastic. Like this is going so far, and let's keep going through night 1 because night 1 truly was spectacular. And you know what? Here's the thing: it's available for free. If you want to watch night 1 of Best of Super Juniors without doing the commitment thing, you just sign up for New Japan World. Don't leave a credit card number and go watch this. It's available for free. We had Lio Rush defeating Sho as well, which I thought was a spectacular angle. And it got Lio Rush over because Evil attacks Lio Rush before the bell and just beats the hell out of him. Evil and Sho double team Lio Rush. And what does this have as an effect in the audience? The audience completely 100% goes full court press in support of Lio Rush for the entirety of the show. I'm telling you one thing, and that's why I wrote my article that you can read on voicesofwrestling.com as of right now as to why I think Evil should be belted up again. Because the House of Torture stuff, as deplorable and mind-bogglingly annoying it was during the pandemic era, during the clap crowd and empty arena era of New Japan, It's working. It's connecting with the audience. It's making baby faces like a good heel should. I think there's something to this. We'll talk. Look, go read the article. Let me convince you that Evil should be a world champion again. In the meantime, look at the results. This worked. It was good. Then we had Robbie Eagles defeating Yo, which ruled. Robbie Eagles right now is one of the MVPs of this tournament. He has been outstanding in every match he's been. Solid, a variety of moves, not always the same game plan, despite the fact that he uses the same game plan. People are on to him, so he moves things around. He works the legs to lock in the Ron Miller special, but he hasn't been really winning with the Ron Miller special. He's been using other techniques, which I appreciate, which means that, he's got his head on his shoulders. We've tournament Robbie Eagles. It's like, I got to mix it up. I can't use the same thing every night. They're going to get on to me. Fun match. Eagles and Yo, former Chaos stablemates. Outstanding final sequence on top of that in this match. Just loved it. Titan defeated TJP on night 1. Smooth as hell match. Titan wins with the Muda lock. I think this is the year that people come full circle back around to TJP. And fully recognize how smooth of a pro wrestler this guy is. Regardless of what you think about him as, and his belief systems, and how he, as an individual, I believe this is the year. It started last year with Catch 22, with Francesco Akira, turning into one of the top 3 tag teams in the world. 2 singles guys are just like, yeah, we're going to go all in on this one. And we're going to go all in on this one, and we're going to actually be a tag team. We're not just going to be 2 singles guys. We're going to turn ourselves into a tag team here. And now, lost the titles. They're doing the singles thing in the juniors tournament. TJP isn't quite as lucky. His luck isn't on his side, but his matches have been smooth as hell. Titan, TJP, I loved it. I thought it was great. And I'm not as big a Titan guy as a lot of y'all out there are. I know there are a lot of people who say, oh, Warren, Titan is fantastic. He's good, don't get me wrong. He's no schlub. He's no Dominic. He's no Bad Luck Fale, don't get me wrong. But I'm not as high on Titan as a lot of you are. I think he had a fantastic match here, don't get me wrong. But Yoshinobu Kanemaru defeated El Desperado. Hey, let me tell you, this match here, one of my favorites so far in the tournament. Yeah, Kanemaru is someone that, look, I've been on this train for a while though. But again, this is a guy that I feel like a lot of people are going to turn the corner on, not unlike TJP, because if anything, these just 5 guys, right, are going to be helping out Sanada and Kanemaru really break through here. Really help elevate, push forward, make Kanemaru into more of a contender in the division, right? It was wild to me to learn that just a couple of weeks ago, Yoshinobu Kanemaru, in his 40s, has wrestled all over the place. All Japan, Noah, New Japan, he's been everywhere. Not only has never been the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, but never even challenged for the title. That was his first challenge just a few weeks ago against Hiromu. I mean, what are we doing? This guy rules. He always ruled. And in this situation here, we've got the history, we've got the former pals, former tag team partners, former stablemates. And Kanemaru doesn't give a fuck. He just fucks up Desperado's knee. Masterclass on limb work and how to make limb work good. Shout out Jesse Collins. No, but for real, it was an astounding match in that regard. Despy does his best to fight back and he can't string offense properly together. Kanemaru always has him in figure fours. He ends the match with a figure four. This ruled. Dope as hell. I think I skipped a couple of matches before. Yeah, I skipped a couple of matches. Dan Maloney defeated Bushi on night 1 too. Listen, I'm going to tell you, Dan Maloney, look, I know that they can't all be the guy. You need a guy, and then a couple of other guys, but Dan Maloney ain't the guy. He ain't doing it. This ain't connecting. It ain't working. It ain't. It's not as a wise man once said. It ain't making my nipples hard. You see him against Bushi. You're like, okay, he's gonna get a win. He did. It's against Bushi, and you kind of like, well, all right. Night 2 wasn't great either. Night 3 wasn't great either. I didn't see again, I haven't watched night 4 yet. Can't speak on it. But Dan Maloney's not doing it for me. And I think that after 3 nights, I'm kind of like, all right, this. If I'm booking this tournament, if I'm Ghetto, and I had plans for Dan Maloney, and I had him, going on a win streak or whatever, I'm sitting back down and I'm giving this spot to someone else. He has, he had a match with Bushi. Who else did he have? I don't even remember his matches. That's how. He had a match with Kanemaru the night after Kanemaru has that fantastic match with El Desperado. But then again, night 2, no one had any excuse to give us night 2. Night 2 was not good. No one had any excuse to give us night 2. Everything underperformed. Anyway, we'll talk about that in a second. We also had Master Wato defeating Francesco Akira. Wato, I find so far, has been half and half. This is the thing with Wato. I think he's improving. I think he is indeed getting better. I think he's grown tremendously since he started, so swift, all that bullshit. But he's still, there's flashes of brilliance. And then he Master Watos it up. I don't know how to put it. I don't know how to tell you. Like, just weird executions. And you're like, what are you trying to do? What's the story we're doing here? Like, there's always I'll get into some stuff and then he'll purposefully drag me out. And you're like, nope, sorry for making you believe, pal. And I'm like, And I feel that's been his tournament so far. Again, I haven't seen night 4, but this has been it so far. Francesco Akira maybe hasn't had the success yet, but this guy working with TJP shows. This guy has an understanding and a speed and just a daredevil aspect of him, but not in a 2012 Hiromu Takahashi kind of way where he's just throwing all caution to the wind. It's more like in the speed and the crispness of what he does, just like this relentless execution that he has in what he does that makes him compelling. That all these things about his gimmick being the fireball and the fire swing and the fire starter. I don't know what all the names are. I don't remember, but. His thing is fire being ablaze, and you're like, yeah, this is Francesco Akira. I get it. This kid is great. And he's had solid matches throughout. Just always, and you know, commentary mentioned it quite a bit. He's been in New Japan for about a year. He debuted in the Best of Super Juniors last year. I love this. I love this guy. So he's always a pleasure to watch. And then we had, Doki defeating Kushida on night 1 as well, which I thought was a great match. That was a great match. Kushida schooling Doki at first. Like, just, you know, old school vets, like, come on, kid. I'm gonna get you in the ring. I'm gonna stretch you for the next 20 minutes or so. It wasn't 20 minutes. The match lasted 8:32, but if you get the reference, thank you. And we're going, he's going aggressively hard. Like Kushida is, like he's got something to prove. And I'm like, brother, you are Kushida. But then again, I'm like, he probably does have something to prove, because I myself on this show, when he made his return to New Japan, just like many other people out there, everyone sort of went, all right, what does Kushida have to offer the world of pure Resu in 2023? What's he got for us, right? And his first few matches weren't great. We're like, oh, did the WWE system get him? Is he washed? What's going on? Then he got sick, missed out on a bunch of dates. And then since he's come back, since he wrestled, well, at least since I saw his match with Steve Macklin at Rebellion this year, which again is still one of my favorite pay-per-views of the year. I'm like, okay, so this is the Kushida I want. This is the Kushida that is proving me wrong, where I just shrug my shoulders like, okay, well, what does he have to give? He clearly has a lot to give. Yeah, and there was the Darby Allin match as well. And he clearly has a lot to give, and he wants to give more. And this is probably a guy who's listening, who has his ear to the ground, and is like, oh, okay, everyone's sort of like, well, does Kushida merit a spot? What's his thing here? He's like, all right, bet. So when I say Kushida is in this match with something to prove, one part of me is like, this is nonsense. This is bad analysis, Warren, because this guy is he's a legend in the junior heavyweight division of New Japan. But on the other hand, it's like, this is good analysis, Warren, because clearly he feels like he has something to prove. He feels like, it's like, all right, haters, doubters, I'm going to show you that I still got it. And fuck me sideways if he doesn't. He even in this, and he was like, I'm going to get you over, Doki. This crowd is going to be up on its feet for you by the end of this match. And guess what? At some point during the match, he's trying to get some cheap shots in, using the ropes and trying to get some cheap shots in on Doki. Crowd turns on him, turns on Kushida. It's a pro Doki crowd. Skate a special to wrap this one up by our boy Doki. Beautiful. And the main event was the match I think everyone, at least in North America, wanted to see. Good old Gato giving us the big match on night 1. A Gato trope that I will always approve. Mike Bailey defeated Hiromu Takahashi. Not surprised. What did I tell y'all last week? Remember, keep in mind what I said last week when I sat here in this very seat. Beautiful blue seat, by the way. I told you all, if Hiromu loses his first match, he's losing the tournament. Mark my words. Bailey here, fantastic. Physical, tons of striking. He lit up Hiromu. He got Hiromu cooking. This was great. You should go check it out. You should check out this entire... If you love pro wrestling, and you should, and if you do, you should watch night 1 of the Best of Super Juniors and have yourself a good old time. Just an outstanding night of professional wrestling. Night 2, The match, the night 2 wasn't terrible. It's not something that you watch and you feel like you have to have a good cry after. It's, this is not NXT Halloween Havoc 2022, okay? The work was good overall. I even enjoyed quite a bit Hiromu and Doki. I thought that was good. I thought Francesco Akira and Kevin Knight was good as well. They did more angles with Show and Mike Bailey using the foot and if you're into that. But it did not have the level of energy that that night 1 had. Didn't have the spark. Didn't have the outstanding levels of work or the levels of work. Lots of things were advanced. More stories were told. Don't get me wrong. I even thought so far, I think this, Yo and Master Wato was probably my favorite performance out of both on that night there. El Desperado settling in the tail of the knee. It bothered him on night 3 as well. I thought that was fantastic. Some good stuff, Like I said, Francesco Akira, Kevin Knight. I think I can't put over Kevin Knight enough. I think this is going to be a guy that we should all, be locked in on, keep an eye on. He's one of the standouts of the dojo, of the LA dojo, and like a lot of commentators have pointed out. Again, like, this isn't me saying this specifically. I'm parroting essentially, but I agree with it. The fact that Kevin Knight, out of all of the guys in the LA dojo, he's the guy that's brought to Japan to wrestle with Kushida, to be, junior tag champions, to be in Best of Super Juniors, as opposed to, Alex Coughlin or... that's significant, right? That means something. That's, someone's got their eye on this guy. He's not a finished product. He can, as spectacular as he can be, he's still a little sloppy sometimes, which you could often chalk up to nerves. I think there's a lot of that's involved here. But, he absolutely holds his own with Kushida when they were having, when they do the tag team stuff. He's fantastic. His drop kicks are amazing. He's got great aerial technique. He doesn't overdo it. He's not a flippy guy. He's just a high energy, high octane dude. He's got great charisma. His upward mobility is insane. You're seeing like the formation of a really interesting, really compelling future pro wrestling prospect, whether it be in New Japan or elsewhere. I think at some point he's going to outgrow New Japan because he's got too many. He's got a lot of affinities that work really well in North America that people can latch on to, maybe less in Japan. I think he's got a lot of upward mobility. I'm not outright calling him like the next best thing or so on and so forth, but he's fantastic. And I thought this match with Francesco Akira brought the best out of him and vice versa. They work really well together. But overall, night 2, I think, is, if you wanted to skip it, you could skip it. And on night 3, we had, I didn't do the results on the one, but who cares? On night 3, let me just focus on the matches I really like, because I think I talked about, I didn't talk about Clark Connors, really, right? Did I talk about, I didn't talk really much about Clark Connors. Here's what I like about Clark Connors. And here's, in opposition to Dan Maloney, right? Here's the thing. We've got commentary talking about Dan Maloney and saying Dan Maloney used to be a heavyweight, then he had to readjust his body. He wanted to bring it down because he wanted to be he wanted to be a junior, right? He was a little too big, and then he wanted to drop down to 225 or whatever. So Kevin Kelly and Chris Charlton put him over as, a heavyweight in the body of a junior, right? Putting over his strength, his striking ability, so on and so forth. And I'm shrugging there and I'm like, hey, but we already have Clark Connors, who is exactly that. Clark Connors is a tank. Like, he is a power junior. We don't need Dan Maloney coming in and being, he's a heavyweight in the body of a junior. We already have one at home, Mom. It's Clark Connors. And Clark Connors is better. Clark Connors is a better overall wrestler. And I like that we're continuing down this path of Clark Connors being the savage, right? This is the term that's brought up a lot with the new Bullet Club guys. A bunch of savages. We want savages. That's what Dave Finlay was saying. Well, he's wrestling like a savage. He's being an absolute beast. Good for him. I'm enjoying Connors' work. And he might be a sneaky pick towards the end. Like, he's not down in the dumps. He's not, trailing, he's not at the bottom of the barrel with an egg. He's staying alive here. Then we had Taiji Ishimori defeating Doki. This was the 6-point match for Ishimori. And I really liked this match. I thought it was very good. Tremendous dive by Doki. Gets all of his shit in. He's getting all of his shit in. The swinging Northern Lights, the Daybreak, the Italian stretch number 32, which is the proper name for the Doki Choki, by the way. But Ishimori, he's been on fire. Like I said, right up until this point, undefeated, just a beast. Bone Lock does it. Thank you, good night. Good showing here. Francesco Akira and Robbie Eagles. Oh! One of my favorite matches of the tournament. Absolutely rocked. Fantastic match. And I wasn't expecting anything less out of these two here. I was expecting Robbie Eagles to win. Didn't expect him to lose to Akira here, but makes things more interesting. And you know what? How they played off this match, it could have gone either way. Towards the end, I love this finish here. Towards the end, Robbie Eagles, he locks on the Ron Miller special after ducking a Nova Fireball from Akira, right? He's just like, so that happens. Some close near falls follow. Turbo backpack by Robbie Eagles. Double knees in the corner. Wipes out on the 450 though, which allows Akira to land the Nova Fireball proper for the win. This is one of my favorite tournament matches so far. It's right up there with Bailey and Hiromu and Kanemaru and Desperado. Like, highly recommend it on night 3. Just outstanding stuff. Titan defeated Kushida as well. Dan Maloney defeated Yo in a snoozer. Mike Bailey defeated TJP. First time these guys ever wrestled each other. Wild. And Mike Bailey pulls out the Flamingo Driver for the first time in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Dig it. I loved it. I thought this was great. I want more Bailey in New Japan and TJP. Not gonna lie, I thought this was smooth as hell. Mike Bailey up at 6 points as well at this point. El Desperado defeated Master Wato. Continued the story of Kanemaru's knee, and I think that's going to be a thing moving forward, and it's either going to go two ways with Gedo. Either Despi is going to work through the pain and win the block or something, or he's just going to completely cave in, and it's not going to work out. And the main event, I think I talked about it earlier, Lio Rush defeated Hiromu Takahashi, barn burner. And from this point on, I think it is clear now, Lio Rush and Hiromu Takahashi cannot have anything less than a great match with each other. I think this is where we're at now. I think I'm confident to say, maybe we need a third match just to consecrate that. God, this was good. So where are we on the standings right now? Lio Rush leads Block A with 8 points. Mike Bailey, Taiji Ishimori, and Titan all have 6. Hiromu, TJP tied at 4. Doki, Kushida, and Sho have 2 points, and Taguchi with the goose egg at the bottom of the group. I do believe, if I am not mistaken, let me make sure. We can't officially knock anyone out yet, but for all intents and purposes, let's say Taguchi goes on a streak here, and then just wins all of his matches, brings him up to, he has 5 matches left, so gets 10 points. He'd have to defeat everyone, and then let me see here, and then Lio Rush would have to not win another single match, nor Sho, nor Ishimori, nor Titan. So it is very improbable that Taguchi is anything else but a spoiler at this point in the tournament. Block B right now, not as clear cut as far as leaders and guys to watch out for B block. Akira, Eagles, Desperado, all at 6 points. Yoshinobu Kanemaru, Clock Carners, and Dan Maloney, Yo, and Master Wato, all at 4. Kevin Knight is the sole guy at number 2. Bushi's got the goose egg. So this one is a little more, we've still got many more plans moving forward. We're not out of the woods yet here. So yeah, it's too early yet. You know, if we were at night 5, then we could probably start wringing our hands together and kicking guys out of the tournament. But I think it's safe to say that even though the math could potentially make a scenario where Taguchi, does get to the finals, it is very improbable that he will. I feel confident in saying he's been knocked out of the tournament. Again, there is a scenario where he can make it, but I think it is very highly improbable. I still think that there are big chances for Ishimori to be in the finishing throws here. Ishimori right now has Hiromu, who is probably going to be, he's got Hiromu and Mike Bailey, which will likely be his 2 biggest tests. So I think there's still a possibility he's going to be in the mix here. Very much so. But if he falls behind, it will be because of Hiromu and Mike Bailey. But again, I have the feeling he's protected. I feel like they're looking over Taiji Ishimori, making sure that he continues to look strong in this tournament to be a player. I don't think losing to Lio Rush was a mistake. So we'll see moving forward. He's still got some tough names to get through. As far as Mike Bailey goes, who is another top guy right now at 6 points, well, he's got of course he's got Ishimori as a big stepping stone left. You could argue he's got Titan. Titan was up there at 6 points with him. If Bailey is able to dispose of Titan, I think that's the death knell for Titan. And I believe Mike Bailey will be a contender as we start getting towards the end here. Doki might end up having a sneaky good tournament as well. He's got 2 points. The crowd loves the crowd loves Doki. So I could absolutely see Gedo just spinning around on this and going, "Hey, I'm gonna give him the push. Let's sunset this Dan Maloney fellow and work with one of our own dudes and get this guy over." Why would we be surprised, right? I wouldn't be surprised. So I think there's definitely something really good. I think there's something really good to pull out of this match as it stands. So there's really a lot of good stuff to come still yet in Block A. Block B is just all over the place right now. Hard to say. Let's take a look here. Because there aren't many top established stars as there are in Block A, right? I think the work in both blocks has been very good, but if you look at Robbie Eagles, for instance, and why wouldn't you? He's got Dan Maloney, El Desperado, Kevin Knight, Master Wato, and Kanemaru left. So Kanemaru is currently at 4 points. Eagles is at 6. It could still go either way. There's nothing really definite. There isn't a runaway guy so far. So it's hard to see how he's going to be positioned. And the same goes for Kanemaru. Kanemaru doesn't necessarily have the toughest rest of block left. He won over El Desperado, which was probably his biggest hump he needed to get over. But, he did lose to Kevin Knight. He did lose to Master Wato, defeated Dan Maloney. So he's a little uneven. You would assume he'd be able to do easy work out of Bushi, probably out of Yo as well, probably out of Akira as well. Robbie Eagles might put up a fight. That'll be one I'm looking forward to see. But you'd assume that El Desperado is going to be in play till the very end here. And the Kanemaru spoiler, or the Kanemaru tiebreaker is probably going to add to the drama as we start getting closer to the end here. So again, too early to knock anyone out, to see how things are going to go. But, if you ask me, right now, Hiromu Takahashi has already faced his stiffest competition in the tournament. He's faced Lio Rush. He's faced Mike Bailey. He's got Kushida, who he should be able to defeat. Kushida already passed the torch off to him. I think we're going to continue. There's no way that the current ace of the junior division is going to lose to the former ace. I don't think. Taguchi should be a non-factor. Well, okay. Ishimori might be the ultimate one. Might be the guy who nails Hiromu's coffin in regards to this tournament this year. He should be able to dispose of his LIJ stablemate Titan, and probably he'll probably be able to do to get one over TJP as well. I would none of this would surprise me. I think only Ishimori right now is his big match. I think he's got most of the big ones out of the way. Lio Rush absolutely is on a perfect path to be the top scorer of the block. He's got Doki, Mike Bailey, Titan, and TJP left. Going to be good matches. I think the only one that truly has a chance to upset Lio Rush here, maybe add a little spice to it, is Mike Bailey. But since Lio Rush has already overcome Ishimori and Takahashi, I think he's got. I think he has a clean, open road to make it to the end as the top scorer of A block. Is what I was trying to say. But yeah, we'll see. You know, and I think, you know, guys who are at 0 right now are probably going to stay all the way at the bottom. Might act as spoilers, but you know, Bushi still has a chance to make a comeback. I don't see it happening personally, but you know, absolutely, Taguchi's tournament is done for sure. So it's a good tournament so far. This has been a delight. Like I said, night 2, maybe not so great. You could skip that, but night 1 was great. I love night 3. I'm going to get on night 4 very, very soon. So next week, when we reconvene, we will be very close to the end of the tournament because the finals are being held, next week. May 28th. That's exciting. And before all of that, before we even get to that tournament, to the finals there, we are going to have New Japan Resurgence happening this weekend. Let me pull this up here. There we go. I'm going to do a little preview before we head off into the Dusty Trail. Resurgence 2023 happening May 21st at the Walter Pyramid in Long Beach, California. Well, look, let's go right down and chat about the card. It's going to be main evented by the finals of the Strong Women's Championship Tournament, which is taking place on the card throughout the evening. Two brackets, 4 women. Mercedes Moné taking on Stephanie Vaquer from CMLL. And Momokogo from Stardom taking on AEW's Willow Nightingale. So we've got representation from 4 promotions that have a history of working. Well, not really CMLL. You know, AEW would probably like to work with CMLL a little more. I don't know. But, you know, a lot of synergy within these promotions. How about that? So we've got that going. So Mercedes Moné and Vaquer are going to happen. Vaquer, probably, right? Will be happening earlier in the evening to face the winner of Momokogo and Willow Nightingale. Let's just call it. The main event is going to be Mercedes Moné versus Willow Nightingale, right? I think that's what you go for. You're in the North American territory. You know, nothing against Momokogo, but I think this is a bigger, more compelling spot to have Willow Nightingale there. And I think it'll be really interesting to see what kind of magic she and Moné will be able to put together. This is something really interesting because now, you know, we've seen Mercedes in Japan wrestle the Japanese ladies and work that style. Now it'll be interesting to see what she can do coming back to a more grounded North American style here, especially with a woman who who's a different body type, a different style. I'm really excited for this match, and I'm as compelled as I am to see Mercedes Moné win this. I think that's the safe bet. This is such a big match for Willow Nightingale, and you know she probably has butterflies up and down just thinking about this. It's been a crazy year for Willow Nightingale when you think about it over the past 365 days. Like, you know, pressing hard on the indies to becoming a semi-regular on AEW to finally getting the contract and then doing this super cool shit. I'm excited for her. And I think we're going to end up getting a surprisingly good match. I think a lot of people are like, yeah, this is going to be fine. I think we're going to see a couple of women turn up here. I think we're going to see two women put the best foot forward in every way, shape, or form. I wouldn't be surprised if we're completely blown away for two reasons. First and foremost, Willow, I think it's safe to say that this is the biggest match of her career. As far as exposure goes, as far as, well, maybe not as exposure, but as far as, look, she's stepping into the ring with the former Sasha Banks, a legitimate, bona fide superstar. And there are people who are going to be actively looking for this match without necessarily knowing who Willow is. So she's going to be exposing herself to a whole new set of fans. Yeah, so in that regard, I would say that this is the biggest match of her career. More I think about it, the more I think this is the one that she has to, where she knows that there are lots of good things that could come out of this if she has a really good showing and has a really good match with Mercedes. Mercedes on the flip side, I think that she, again, feels she has something to prove. A lot of scuttlebutt around the sales regarding this show here, saying, it's like, well, this show didn't sell out as quickly as Mercedes' first comeback match in North America against Kyrie, right? It didn't turn out to, the tickets didn't fly off the shelves as quickly as when she was announced for the first match, which I can concur to. I would also say, why is New Japan always running California? Mercedes had her match in California a couple of months ago. So maybe, sure, you got to see the big match back. You were there. Maybe you're not feeling as compelled to go and see this one specifically. What if they had run it in Texas, which is another territory that New Japan has a tendency to run? They just run Philadelphia. They just ran Washington, which again, are cities they have a tendency to run. So, maybe not run there. Go back to Texas. Do this. Maybe they would have drawn better numbers. But I think she feels like she has something to prove here. And I think this is going to be the story of the rest of Mercedes Moné's career. Or at least, hang on. Let me put this another way. When is Mercedes Moné going to outlive the WWE Spectre? When are we going to get to a point where it is going to be old hat, a faux pas, to talk about Mercedes Moné and be like, oh, well, when she was in WWE, like, when are we going to have to get rid of that? And I think it's something she wants to shake. I would assume she'd want to shake that because it can't always be about that conversation. Like today, the day I'm recording this, May 16th, is the 1-year anniversary of her and Naomi's walk out of the company. So it's been a full year, a full calendar year since she's been gone. She has, yes, she was contracted to New Japan late last year, but started wrestling in January, February, early 2023. Drawing a blank. So, she's not going to, she doesn't have 30 matches under her belt either. She's an attraction. She's being booked as one. That's fine. It's a thing that I still feel follows the conversation. When are we going to stop putting her time in WWE as a part of the conversation of her moving forward? And I think this is going to be, again, a reason for her to try and put this away. Where it's like, look, I'm going to be coming back to Wrestle in North America for the Strong Women's Championship. Again, I'm having trouble understanding, conversation for another time, but I'm having trouble understanding why she dumped the IWGP Women's title to come and get a Strong Women's title when part of the plan of the IWGP Women's title was to have it defended in North America. Like, don't get me wrong, I just don't get it, okay? there's probably something very political backstage that we don't know, that we don't understand, but I don't get it. But yeah, look, I think she, everything she's going to do is going to be under a microscope. I think she's shown that she's washed off whatever rust she may have from working the WWE style for all those years. She's fine. She's a good wrestler. We always knew she was. She's a star. She acts like a star and she's treated like one. This will be great. I'm excited for it. And I'm excited for Willow. Hiroshi Tanahashi will be taking on Will Ospreay in the tournament semifinals to determine the number one contender for the IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship, winner of which will face Lance Archer at Dominion in the finals. I think a safe bet, a very safe bet, the safest of all the bets is Will Ospreay winning this, especially after what happened at Dynamite last week. And then suddenly Don Callis adding things to his Twitter profile, adding bruv, which is, a Will Ospreay, an expression typically associated with Will Ospreay. Right. I mean, we're not going nuts here. We're not telling any lies here, right? Hiroshi Tanahashi is not winning this match to face Kenny Omega for the IWGP title at Forbidden Door, right? And we're assuming at Forbidden Door. For argument's sake, let's just say that's what it is. It's not going to be Lance Archer either. We're getting the rematch, right? We're getting Ospreay Omega 2. Correct? Correct. I think that's, again, the safest of bets. As long as Will works smart, doesn't overextend himself, and fucking injure himself again in the lead up, we'll be fine. Kazuchika Okada, Rocky Romero, and Tomohiro Ishii will be in a six-man tag, taking on the Blackpool Combat Club duo of Jon Moxley and Wheeler Yuta, accompanied by Shota Umino. So John and his sons taking on the Chaos Dudes. Should be fun. Be interesting to see in what type of bloodthirsty mood Jon Moxley will be in. Hikuleo will be defending the Strong Openweight Championship against Kenta. I really couldn't care less. I really couldn't care less. I don't see it in Hikuleo. I don't get it. I don't see it. It's not my thing. I'm very low on Kenta these days. I'm sorry. Their match did nothing for me a couple of weeks ago. I don't see how this is going to be any different. Fred Rosser versus Juice Robinson. This is going to be a payoff from a feud that had been brewing over the past two Collision shows, where Juice Robinson would beat up Fred Rosser using fistfuls of coins, of quarters. In effect, I still love the visual. I hope he does it again. And it's a gimmick I hope we can translate into AEW. He has a fistful of quarters, clocks him across the face with a straight punch, and the coins just explode. It's a great visual. The TMDK duo of Zack Sabre Jr. and Bad Dude Tito will be taking on Virus and Barbaro Cavernario. Barbaro Cavernario, which I think is Caveman Barbarian or something. And Virus is from CMLL. I will never complain to have Zack Sabre Jr. on my TV or Bad Dude Tito, Big Teats. And we got a couple of pre-show matches. Bateman versus the DKC and Alex Coughlin versus Christopher Daniels. Seems like a decent little card. Seems like a decent little card. Should be a fun time. So that happens this Sunday. Probably review it next week. And next week, we're going to have so many things to talk about. in regards to an AEW thing. Some news coming up tomorrow. But in the meantime, we're going to wrap up the Meekly Best and Inspiration. Oh, you princes and princesses and everyone else, thank you so much for hanging on here till the very bitter end. If you haven't already, consider giving a like on the video if you're listening to this on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. If this is on your favorite podcast application, reviews on Apple Podcast, 5-star ratings on Spotify are dope as hell. And I'd appreciate a little looky-loo over there. I would also appreciate if you headed over to voicesofwrestling.com to read my latest article, my latest thoughts on why I think evil should be belted up. That's right, that evil. Make him a world champion again. Do all of that and it'll make your boy happy. I'll be back on Thursday. Maybe a little on the late side, but I will be back on Thursday with another edition of the AEW Dynamite review. But hey, you know what? In the meantime, I hope everyone has a great rest of their week. Thank you again for being here. I'll see you next time.